Welcome to Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods. I'm your host, Corey Nathan. This is where we get to speak with the brilliant and creative people who make the greatest coming attractions, movie posters, and digital campaigns of all time. This program is brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards and APM Music. And today, this is like a special, really special episode. By the way, what are we calling this crew? The OGs? Is that what it is? Have we decided? Okay, the OGs. So as many folks know, Trailer Park, one of the longest running trailer companies in the industry, recently had some restructuring resulting in the actual theatrical trailer group being shuttered, as they say in the entertainment business. This one just seemed to strike a chord with a lot of our friends in the industry. So we thought it might be good if we did some kind of a tribute to not the Airstream, I just learned, to the canned ham. So today we have a few of the folks who were there when Trailer Park was literally just an idea. The very early days, way before the building on Hollywood Boulevard, before when those days that they were on Ivar, even before they were even in that cool building on Santa Monica where our friends from Seismic have been making cool shit for like 20 years. We're talking like way in the way back. So today we have Tim Nett, Jim Hale, Ann Mugglebee, Mike Southerly, and Tommy Gargotta. It's so cool to be with you guys. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good.
Still alive.
Great to see you too, Corey.
Still kicking. Yeah, we're sad about TP, but for sure.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
We're survivors.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, Jim, I thought I'd start with you, partly because this is your debut on Trailer Geek, so I appreciate that. But also, it was really you and Tim who started this thing. So one thing I was curious about was whose actual original idea was it, or was it sort of symbiotic between you two? And how did that? Do you remember how that first conversation went? Hey, I'm thinking about this thing, this trailer park. Like, how did that all go?
I think everything was my idea, including the name Trailer Park. Not really. So let's see. So Tim and I worked together at Aspect Ratio, and Tim was a finisher, and I was editing. Tim was finishing and a writer, and I was one of an editor there, and had a good run. And I think we kind of casually were talking. This would be kind of a neat hookup because between an editor, writer, and we both could produce and editing, we thought that would be something there. And then, so let's see. So then we got together with one of Tim's business partners, and basically, I think we went to Tim, didn't we go to like the Hollywood Athletic? No,
it was the Tower. What's now the Tower Bar.
Yeah, that's right.
That was our first meeting at the Tower Bar.
Yeah, so we went to the meeting, and we kind of basically decided to do it. And then I had to go into my current boss at Aspect Ratio and tell him that I was going to be leaving, and that was a very ugly scene for me. And
was that Jeff Smith or Ron?
Well, it was Ron Moeller.
It was Ron.
Yeah.
Tell me, you have to try imitation. I thought you were a guy. I thought you were a guy. So, yeah. So it was Ron Moeller and Bob Israel were the owners of the company. And they were really, great to me. And I had a great run there and really, really loved it. And so obviously, approaching one of them saying, hey, I'm leaving was, they didn't like. And B, we're going to be your competitors. So, because Tim and I kind of played in that same comedy field as, back in the day as Aspect Ratio did. So, so when we left that, we were just going to be direct competitors. And then after I went in and said that, I think it was the next day I was at lunch, Mr. Southerly there came in and said, if you're leaving, I'm leaving. And so there's a whole story behind that. But I said, Mike, I would love that. Because I knew Mike was like, okay, this dude's actually, Mike's a great writer and like he would be a great asset. But I said, I can't poach the company. So,
go back home to Ohio and stay there for a bit, and then I'll call you back up and we'll hire you back in.
I totally forgot about this whole part.
2 months of my life.
It's all ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. So then we call Mike like 2 weeks in, because or when he was supposed to come back, and I'm like, Mike, we're not ready for you yet, because we didn't have our footing yet. And so then, finally we were, come on out. And then with Tim at the time was, I guess when this was all going down, he was at EMA. And then with him also came Tommy, also on the line.
Oh, wait a
So
second.
really,
Oh, so Tommy, you and Tim knew
so
each other.
Tommy was kind of at EMA as the time was, I guess you were driving, and kind of an aspiring editor.
He wasn't even aspiring. He was. I think I told this on my podcast. Was Tommy was he had been in the music business, right? I like how we're telling each other's stories. This is so good.
It's all going to be wrong.
So far, it's wrong, but okay.
Okay, great. Tommy had been. I'm going to tell you. Tommy was a rock star, an international rock star. He was in the music business somehow, and then he started working, and then he got out of that for whatever reason, and then he started working as a PA with my then wife, who was a commercial producer. And at that time, I had a little thing. I was trying to start up a little trailer thing with some other guys, and it was, it was starting to get a little traction. And my wife was like, "This guy's awesome. You should hire him." So I met Tommy, and he came over, and he was awesome, and hired him. And I don't even know how long we were there together, Tommy. It was probably only months, right?
Couple of months. We went through the earthquake. Remember that one day?
The earthquake. Yeah. That's right. The 94 earthquake. That happened while we were there.
And Jerry Garcia died on a run back from Orion. I remember that. It was horrible.
Yeah, that was not Jerry died in 95. So, so
I was driving a blue Tercel, had a 3/4-inch deck tape in my car, and I got the news. So we were together for 2 months at EMA, maybe 3 months.
Well, that's interesting because I was driving that year too when I heard the news that Jerry died. I broke down in tears in my car.
Me too.
So that's interesting. So you work together. I had the order wrong. I thought that I knew there was a craft services thing, but I thought Ann was the one who brought Tommy over because okay. But I knew about Mike because
the opposite. It was the opposite because Tommy and I had worked together in commercial production with Tim's former wife. And
I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that either. That's news to me.
Yes, that's exactly. Huh. So I knew Tommy Gargotta as Tommy Tannenbaum.
Tommy Tannenbaum.
He had long hair and a fanny pack, and he was a
fanny pack.
And
he still has a fanny pack.
Yeah, and I was
actually do.
I was doing craft service with Tommy's former wife, and she called me up and said, because she knew I knew Tommy from the commercial production, and she said, Tommy's working, just started at this company called Trailer Park, and they just need somebody to help them. They
need a mom. They need somebody to keep us.
But I don't want to get ahead of myself because I still want to hear Tim and Jim's. But that's how it happened.
I didn't know that, Ann. All this time, I didn't know that that's how you ended up there.
Forgot all about that. Yeah, that makes sense now. That's right. You were working with craft service.
Yep, I was working with craft service. So I worked with.
I knew the Mike part of it. The note that I wrote down, Mike was the #1 fan of the Jim Hale fan club. And that's how we ended up at Trailer Park. So, but you were, so Tommy, I guess technically was employee #1, Mike was employee #2, and Ann was employee #3. Is that how it went?
Something like that. Maybe.
I was #7.
Oh, wow. I love that you know that.
When I started, it was all of you guys. So, because my interview was at 6:30 at night, and I didn't know no offense, but 741 North Cahuenga in the mid 90s wasn't exactly hopping as far as
Oh no, it was as we affectionately call it, a shithole.
Yeah. And so I didn't, and there was before cell phones, except for Jim Hale, of course, had a cell phone, but I had a pager, and
before the internet. Let's remember.
Oh my God, that makes it sound like we're 100. Stop it.
It's before the internet. The internet was born on Cahuenga.
Barely before the internet. Not really. So, but anyway, I called my sister and I said, "This is where I'm going. I have an interview. If you never hear from me again, this is the last place I was going."
Wow.
That's awesome. All right, so there's a lot of questions about starting a company then is very different proposition than starting a company now. There are still obviously a lot of hurdles to overcome. I mean, the security alone is a quagmire, but back then this wasn't just pre-premiere. This was pre Final Cut, right? So what did it take for you? Even though it sounds like it was a really tiny place, what did it take? How were you? Walk me through how you actually started the company and what was required.
So Tommy and I were at this little it was a different startup that had been going for, I don't know, maybe a year or something. And Jim and I had talked about starting up, trailer park, and we said, okay, we'll do this. Jim was like, I'm going to give them lots of notice at Aspect Ratio. They've been good to me. I'm going to, try to transition out nicely. So we said, okay, we'll start up in like, I don't know, maybe like 2 months or a month or something. And I had quite a few jobs going at that moment. And I went in to talk to those guys and I said, okay, well, I'm going to be going in, a month or two. And they were like, yeah, no.
Get the hell out.
Right.
So this is actually funny. Tommy was my only guy. So I said, okay, Tommy, go get some beepers because we're going to need beepers.
Beepers.
That's really dating us more, Anne.
No.
I suppose.
And somebody had hooked me up with this guy named Jacques Dury. Do you guys remember Jacques?
Yeah, he was a landlord.
Of
How
course.
did you get,
41.
how
Yes.
did you get hooked up with him, Tim? I
Decoupage.
Remember, somebody told me that he had this. So Jacques was, old at that time. He was probably in his 70s.
Younger than us at that time.
He probably was. You're right. Probably younger than.
But he was an old 70.
But
Yeah.
anyway, he was a commercial editor. He had that little thing set up as a commercial editing company, and he had it was just like 2 booths or two edit rooms. So I went to him and I said, I'd like to start this up. Can I rent a room? So I literally rented 1 room, and it had an Avid in it. And that was good because at that time Avids were like $150,000 or something. They were crazy. So he let us rent that 1 room, and then, we did that for a little while. And then, as we got bigger, we started taking over more and more rooms. We eventually rented the whole thing. And we only rented the first floor. I don't know if you guys remember this. We only rented the first floor. And then there was that graphics company up above.
Yep.
Yeah. Miles and
They were all rich and shit.
Yeah.
They did the Universal logo that they still use back then.
Wow.
And they made so much money. The dude got a Porsche Turbo convertible.
Twin Turbo.
Dude, you're so rich.
Jimmy's like twin turbo, man.
I remember
Tommy,
Jimmy had Lightworks. So you had
Yeah.
because Mike was training, would get out of all his PA duties and go in, and I'd always find him on Jimmy's Lightworks when you guys went to lunch or whatever. I'm like,
so
Mike,
you were cutting pretty.
help with the trash and stuff.
So Mike and Tommy, you guys were cutting pretty much right out of the gate. Is that?
No, actually, what happened was, Tommy was really everything. Like he was driving, and then we had a job from Warner Vision, from Aaron Williams. Remember Aaron Williams?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to try to credit all of our very first clients because we're so grateful for the work that they gave us that got us off the ground. But Aaron Williams gave us stuff from Warner Vision.
Are you talking about Andrew Williams or
No,
Aaron?
it was Aaron Williams, and it was this was
What project was
you cut the thing, Tommy. It was just like a sizzle or something, and you cut it. It was the very first thing you'd ever cut, and it was awesome. And I went like, "All right, Tommy's not running anymore. All right, we're giving you."
Yeah.
You're doing this.
Oh God, I don't remember that. Damn. That's great.
No, but I think he still had to run, so we were like, "Tommy, cut this, then run the tape over to the client, then take lunch on the way back." So the other clients that I remember in the early days were Jim Given gave us Beavis and Butthead.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Gosh, that was so good.
That was so fun. I miss Jim Gibbons. That was really fun. Roland Mesa.
Roland.
All kinds of stuff for Roland. Roland was the one, obviously, who he did some Joel Silverreel we did, which was amazing.
Yeah, dude. He was so amazing. He came in with incredible amounts of notes. He knew every single bite from every movie and how they were all going to weave together. It was such a fun project. It was awesome.
Samantha Hart and Russell
Samantha
Swartz
Hart. Yep.
at
Oh, shit.
what was that, Gramercy?
Gramercy.
Gramercy.
Oh my God.
we did Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
We did some Jada Pinkett movie right in the beginning with Bokeem
Jason's
Woodward.
lyric.
Jason's lyric.
Yeah. Oh my God. Good job, Tommy.
Wait. Was she Drop Squad too? Was she?
I think she was Drop Squad. Yeah.
Dude, I saw that trailer the other day or a week ago. I'm not kidding because I remember, Tim, you gave me my very first composing job with that gig. Do you remember?
No.
Because there was a track that Jimmy cut the trailer with that was expensive. It had a Jimi Hendrix riff, and somebody had like remixed an old Jimi Hendrix song and just was badass. And then, of course, they couldn't afford it. So Tim walks into my bay and he's like, "Hey, do you think you could do a song that's like sounds like the one in Jimmy's trailer?" And I was like, "Sure." Of course, I didn't know what the fuck I was gonna do, man. It was like
But I can do
that was
Jimmy
back when like the equipment was analog and ADATs were the most modern thing. So I rented all the equipment, and because you told me I was gonna get $5,000 for it, and I was like, "Oh, I will get that shit done."
So I undercut you.
That's great.
As any agency owner should. Dude, $5,000 was life-changing. I rented all this equipment.
Yeah, I saw that recently. Yeah.
Sam had Samantha Hart had some iconic posters. Remember that poster for Fargo?
Oh yeah, that was great.
I mean, she was she was underappreciated. She's quirky in all the most wonderful ways. But so some of that work at early days, Gramercy, then Searchlight stuff and Universal stuff. Yeah, she had
She told me a story. She went to Universal, I guess, for a little while, and she went as soon as she got there, she painted her office red.
Yeah. She
You know the
painted.
story?
Yeah, and it didn't go over well.
No, it didn't go over well. They made her paint it back. And
Yeah.
I guess she was working with Steven Soderbergh at the time, and he brought her a little framed thing that said, "You'll always know it's under there." So he hung it on the white painted wall.
I didn't know
Oh,
that.
that's a good story.
Yeah.
Who else? Andrew Williams.
Andrew Williams.
All that Orion stuff. We did a movie called Clifford and one called The Favor. I remember we did a special shoot for The Favor. And then Ray Adiaga and Lauren Schwartz.
From Trimark. Lauren would call it was like Lauren from Trimark. It was one word to me, Lauren from Trimark. But yeah.
I remember Lauren's very first day in the industry at Trimark. It was just
really.
Wait, that was Trimark was Fogelson. Wasn't Fogelson first at?
Yeah, but that was later. It was Ray and Lauren, and then Fogelson came in like sort of near the end of their time. I think Ray went to National Research Group and was there for a long time. And then obviously Lauren had his illustrious career.
Yeah.
Tommy, who was that guitar player, that rock star that you were?
Oh yeah, that was Steve Vai, man.
Right.
Steve Vai. Okay. I mean, again, to say like how great those early years were for me, I'm editing trailers and TV spots, and then one day Tim comes in and goes, "Do you want to cut something for?" I don't know how you may have presented it, but I know it must have been something like the musician. He's a guitar player. His name's Steve Vai, and he's gonna need like his music videos. It wasn't even a trailer. It was like all of his music videos cut.
Yeah.
I'm like, Steve Vai? Steve Vai. This is like my hero, my guitar hero when I was a kid. It was like Eddie Van Halen and Steve Vai.
See, Steve Vai said something in that thing that I still quote to this day, because my son was trying to play music, and I said, Steve Vai said, "Show me a great guitar player, and I'll show you an awkward teenager who never left his bedroom."
That's great. You know what's so while I'm whatever editing this crazy piece of like music and video, which is beautifully shot, he's teaching me like get some guitar riffs and stuff, right? Because I had my guitar in the bay. That was the cool thing. It's like everybody had decorated their bays. Mike's was like a cowboy theme. Mine was like bordello guitar player. And and so like he'd be riffing while I was editing on my guitar. And then sometimes I'd be like, oh, please teach me that one. I love when you like, and he taught me some like riffs. Steve Vai's teaching me, as Joe Satriani apparently taught him back in the day, right?
That's great.
Wait, didn't he give you a guitar?
So that's the thing. At the end, there was no payment because I think I was doing that. I was cutting for you TV spots. I was cutting for you and Jimmy, like a normal, editor during the day, and then I would switch to his project at night. And he just walks in and hands me the guitar I've been seeing on the video that I've been cutting for like 4 weeks. That guitar. So I still have it, of course.
That's
Um,
incredible.
Probably the best. I think one of the best experiences as an editor I could ever have. And then getting his guitar. I don't know if it gets better than that. So yeah, that was one of the best clients we had, at least for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Corey, the clients, obviously chapter 2, 3, 4, and so on of Trailer Park, many more clients. But as far as those early days, I think those were the key ones. I hope we're not missing anyone. If we are, certainly not purposeful.
Absolutely. I mean, if we missed anybody, it's because it's so long ago and we're old and we can't remember
Shut up,
anything.
Tommy. Oh my God.
Feeling memory.
But those clients, that we just mentioned, honestly, they were so cool to give us gigs and be so supportive of our Scrappy team.
Oh man,
And-
yeah, we had like they really were taking a leap of faith.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Compared to the other choices in town.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's Tommy. How did you learn your way around the board? Were you spending time in Jim's Bay? Like, how did you
Well,
learn that?
I think it goes to EMA. We had Chris Hume was at EMA for a little
Chris
bit.
Hume.
Right?
And then Chris Hume came over. He was one of our
Yeah.
first.
Freelancing. Yep.
Yeah, so it's a combination of like EMA editing. I was there watching Chris, who was really kind to me. I think I mentioned it in my conversation with you, Corey, that he really let me sit there and watch him. And then one day he said, "You could take this spot over." Or he made a duplicate of a spot and let me play with it. And then the first thing I cut on his machine was my wedding video. And of course it had Blues Traveler and the Grateful Dead in it. Of course.
Of course.
And so that's my first cut. I thought that was my first cut, Tim, but I guess Warner Vision was my first cut.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
and
the
I
first
gotta
time-
give a shout out to Andrea, who, introduced me to production. And that's how I met Megan, which then led me to Tim and, and also for our 2 beautiful children, Luke and Grace. Anyway, where was I? So that's how I learned from Chris. I think Chris was really kind to me.
So, just total side note. So, Popper, the lead singer harmonica player, he's been a guest on my politics show. He wouldn't come on this show,
cool.
but he came on my politics show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was awesome. He was great. So you started to say about the clients, Tim. Were you able? Was there reticence to come over to this brand new shop? Like, didn't know who was over there, or
I'll tell you what, in those days, it's so different than it is now. There weren't that many trailer companies, right? There was only like 10 of them or something.
Yeah.
The
Maybe
big,
less.
yeah, the big
Most of
ones.
them-
They were all big. You guys were the first rogue ones.
Yeah, and we were like the little rogue, I was 30 when we
Yeah.
started. Like we were kids. We were all like kids. And we had no business starting a company. So a bunch of the people were sort of like, oh, well, we're working on, young people movies and these are young people. So,
We also had, coming from, aspect ratio, working with everyone, we had, both of us were connected. And I was going to a lot of meetings with Ron to all these studios. So, we also had connections to people too. We weren't just walking out like, hey, we're, unknown people, back then, just like now, connections are everything. So you could kind of walk into some of these rooms and like, yeah, you're the one who cut this at this time. And, and we're starting our own company. And I think back in the day, like, Chris Pula, who was, I think, one of the guys that really propelled us a lot in the beginning because he gave us Dumb and Dumber, which I think he probably, I always say that no one knew what that movie was going to be. So it was a mistake that he gave it to us probably. And so fortunately we did a, cool trailer, one loved, and that didn't hurt anything in the beginnings.
That-
So
That's what I
just
remember
wanna-
is Amy. I mean, she'd be called, Amy was
Amy Pitta,
That's
right?
What I was
Yeah.
just going to
Yeah.
say is the only reason Chris gave us that job is because I knew Amy from finishing. She was at TriStar doing finishing, and then she moved over to New Wave or to a New
New
Line.
Line, yeah.
And then when I started this up, she was really a champion, and she got Chris to pay attention to us, and she actually gave me my very first, I think it was my very first job, which was House Party 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah, Tommy remembers it was 2.
Pajama Jammy Jam.
Yeah.
What
But
just
no, I
happened?
did House
And
Party.
Amy was actually always polite to the because I was a receptionist answering the phone. She was always polite too.
Oh, she was just awesome.
she was awesome.
She was just really, there wouldn't even be a company without her, because she got us jobs like that one, like House Party and Dumb and Dumber.
Monkey Trouble.
Just on the map.
I'll add to the Dumb and Dumber story, which I recall my very first week at Trailer Park. You guys gave me the assignment after I was done, cleaning and taking out the trash. Can you please log the dailies for this movie? And I did it in this upstairs walk-in closet, and I had stacks of these giant 3/4-inch tapes, and nobody knew who Jim Carrey was at the time. He had just done Ace Ventura. So I'm up here at the on the second floor watching these dailies, every single take of Dumb and Dumber, laughing my ass off, and Jim and Tim are down there like, what is Mike doing up there? And I would run down the tapes and I would be like, you guys have to watch this, and I would put them in. We would all laugh.
That's awesome.
So did you get a finish? Did you get a big finish on Dumb and Dumber? Any finishes?
Yeah, that was our first big trailer.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got to say, Jimmy Hale cut that. That was his genius. Choosing that classical music, letting things play. The copy. Did you write that copy, Tim?
That was it was Chris's. I mean, I wrote it, but it was Chris's idea. Chris Pula came up with that idea to do the definitions.
The definitions of
I remember typing them out on a computer.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, Jim and Tim, because I logged all the dailies for Dumb and Dumber. That's where I really learned, how to put a trailer together, because Jim, was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys end up having like a major kegger that night, or like a major party when you got that finish?
Oh, we had plenty of keggers. But,
Well, not only did it get the finish, we got I think it was best of show in Key Arts.
Well, yeah, we got best comedy trailer that year and everything.
Yes, I know what it was.
So this was pre Golden Trailer. So and in fact, it was pre Clio's too, in a way, because it was Key Arts. Right?
They were called the Key Art Awards back then.
Little triangles. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking about you mentioned the other companies. There really weren't that many other companies. I'm curious if like Bob and Ron were throwing shade your way, if Steve Panama was talking shit about you to the client. Anthony Goldschmidt was another one. Farina, if you guys were who the hell are these guys? Kind of a vibe from the like the institutions of the industry, like these new upstarts. What the hell? Like, or was it? Did you just stay under the radar until it was,
Ron?
Well, Tim, actually, will you also talk about the name Trailer Park? Because
I want to know how you came up with the name.
I've never heard how you came up with the name, and I think that leads to the clients, because the Scrappy company with this name, all the other names were kind of graphically and arty, and then there's Trailer Park.
Yeah.
So can we veer over to that? And then I think that segues well into the clients.
Because Jim admitted to me that you came up with the name.
All right.
But I still don't know how. I still don't know how you guys did it, or who.
I'm going to let Tim finish this one, but I've always that's always been upsetting to me that I did not come up with the name, because I just about every time I talk to somebody, who came up with that name? Tim Nett did. So I've always held a grudge towards that.
Well, I have to tell you that my ex-wife claims she came up with it.
So.
Wow.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
My current wife, when I met, she thought for literally 6 months, her mom thought that I worked at a trailer park, not the trailer company.
Same.
So
we used to get phone calls from people wanting to
trailers.
where the electric and water hookups were.
Yeah,
exactly. I remember at our very first meeting at the Tower Bar, we talked about that, if we thought that was a good idea, and we were kind of like, I don't know, is it too much? Like, is it too like? And then we went, fuck it. So And I remember Ron Moeller hated that name. He was all, "What are you doing? It's terrible. It's a terrible name."
I have to admit, I hated it too. So when when I went up to when Jim was having lunch at Aspect Ratio, I stalked him and I went up there and I was like, "I heard you're leaving the company. What's going on? Like, why are you leaving?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to this other company." And then I finally was like, "Okay, what's it called?" And I remember him saying Trailer Park, and in my mind, I'm going, I don't like that.
If I can speak to the departure just a little bit about. So when we left, obviously that there was they weren't happy about it, but Bob and Ron, they did actually come to us and they wanted to really invest in us, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So we had to. It was a very polite, um, conversation back and forth on how they could help us, and but at the end of the day, we were really, like Tim said, he kind of walked in the door with the jobs. And, as nice as it would have been to have, I guess, seed money and all that stuff, we were just like, well, we're already doing it. We don't really, we're already kind of in the positive. So it just didn't make any sense. But it's always been very kind, I think. But, I've always kept a great relationship with both Ron and Bob.
Yeah, I still see Bob all the time.
Yeah, they're great people.
Yeah.
So once you started getting busy, you talked a little bit about growing, the whole first floor and then the second floor. How were you able to build up the team? Like, did you hire guys like Tommy and Mike and then kind of grow them into editors, or were some other, you mentioned Chris Hume, some folks from other shops were coming over? Or?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I just want to acknowledge, okay, me and Jim are starting a company. Our first two hires are Tommy and Mike. Holy shit. Talk about hitting the lottery.
Yeah, really.
These guys were just like gold. So
Thank you.
So I mean, between this, we had a pretty good start, and then we just started adding,
freelancers.
I thought Mike owes it all to the foreign exchange student.
Hannah.
Hannah Rukild. Yeah, she so when I started, that's when I said I was number 7. So it was you 4, Lauren Carolla was the finisher.
That's right.
And then Hannah Rukild and Mike were PAs, but Mike never really was a PA. But he had that label. So, and then Chris wasn't there when I started, but he had helped you guys as an editor. He was kind of in and out editorially.
And
then was Tim Snell early days?
Tim Snell was there.
And Michael Kurthy.
Mike Kurthy, right. And then what's the other guy's
Joe Torres.
Joe Torres.
And Jason King.
And John Meritato.
Oh, John Meritato. Oh my God, I forgot.
And Jeanette MacGyver.
And then when Lauren left, she was replaced by Jeanette MacGyver. Yep.
Little Nettie MacGyver.
Yeah, Nettie Neville.
How far along was it when Charlotte Honus came over?
That was seismic building. That's chapter 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's like 3.0.
That's too far into the book.
And she has her own chapters herself. I mean, she stayed a long time when we weren't, some of us weren't there anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think I never worked with her there, I believe. I don't think we crossed paths.
Sorry, Tommy. So that's an interesting distinction. So I was referring very briefly to the buildings, but when we look at the arc of the story of Trailer Park, there were definitely distinct chapters. We're talking mostly right now about Cahuenga. Now, all you guys stayed through the Santa Monica days, right? The Santa Monica Boulevard days? Yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? Starting, obviously, did you have a sense of how significant you couldn't have had a sense of how significant of an impact that what you were starting, or did you were like, oh man, this is something special? Like, did you have a sense of that or no?
Can I speak to that a little bit?
Please.
We really were in a shithole. Like when Tim said that, he's not there. There are a few things we need to describe. Like there were nights that I would work late, and I do recall hearing gunshots. And in the morning, we saw the holes in the apartment to the right of us that had, been left over because of said gunshots. It was that kind of neighborhood. We always had homeless, folks visiting us. Some of them really friendly.
Some of them we put on the payroll.
Yeah. And nicknamed. We were really in an interesting part of town, but
when Tim brought us over to the Quonset Hut building, the Santa Monica building, I remember walking into those like shiny concrete floors, those tall ceilings, the skylights, the massive Quonset hut that was going to end up becoming our rec room, and then the upstairs room that became a jam room, and the bathrooms. Everything about that place said, "Holy fuck, we have arrived."
I agree. I agree. That's how I felt too.
We obviously had that great building, and then the Quonset hut was basically half of it, which really, aside from being a fun space, in the beginning, it was like, what do we do with this besides have fun and have lunch in it?
Yeah,
And-
it was just this big empty room, and then we stuck the trailer in it. So yeah, so we bought a trailer from Blackman Cruise.
Really? I can't remember we bought it from there.
Yeah, and then we had some friend of mine come and renovate it, and he tore everything out, and he put just like a sofa in it and a table, like a desk, and then we pulled it in there and we made it Chris Connor's room.
Yeah,
That trailer still exists. They
and you
still have that in the lobby of the new trailer.
Yeah,
park.
that's what I heard. Right? They took it, they put it upside down in the lobby.
They attached
Oh,
it to the
wow.
ceiling in the lobby, so when you walk in, it's hovering above you.
That's crazy. Remember when you used it in your film, Mike, the lock, and everybody was shaking it, so like the lock was attacking us.
The lock, yes, I forgot about that.
His first film.
Let's
We
plug it
got
now.
that-
Let's plug it.
Because the POV was the lock looking in the trailer, and we were in. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Oh my God, I forgot about that, Anne. That's
And-
I should.
Did you have any designs to go the editing route, or was it always producing? That was the way you were going to go.
Wait, we got to talk about Anne coming in first. We got to start.
Yeah,
that a
can
little
we
bit.
please?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anne
Okay.
was
Please.
Anne was not.
Anne showed up and at obviously at 6:30 at night and thought she was going to be kidnapped, but it worked out okay. Like God love her for walking into that shithole building, but we were just like, oh, thank God! Here, you're hired. Please do everything that isn't editing.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Pretty
And I
much.
mean everything that wasn't editing. When I walked in there that night, a pizza guy walked in right behind me. And so he's looking at me and I'm looking around. There's nobody there. And out walks Jim. And he's like, oh, paying for the pizza. He's like, oh, hi, are you here for an interview? And I said, yeah. He goes, oh, have a seat, And so then here comes Tim and Tommy. They're starving and sit down at the dining room table. And I remember Jim slides a plate down to me at the other end of the table. And he's like, you want a piece of pizza? And I'm like, oh my God, what
That is the
happening
best
right now?
trailer. That is a great example of how things went.
Yeah. And I also, we made the big commitment of 3 months because I was in my freelance world of commercial production, craft service, and I had just started kind of interning with the art department and was liking that. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to do Monday through Friday, of course I knew everything when I was in my 20s. And anyway, committed and stayed 5.5 years. But Tim is right. He would just bring things to me. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And he's like, you'll figure it out. In fact, I hadn't spent a lot of time on a Mac, to be honest with you, Corey. I give credit to Tommy's first wife, Ange, and she had this space in Santa Monica. She locked me in there one weekend and said, here's a magazine. Go on Microsoft Word, or I think it was, and make it look exactly like this magazine. So I did it on it was like my cram session on the Mac. So I could at least get work my way around the Mac because I was, from commercial production. I just didn't have that Mac experience. So anyway, but that's how I remember some of these things because I had to fill out all their paperwork. They're like, we need to figure out a 3/4 inch label, and then we need a 1/2 inch label. And so they gave me some top lines. I think even Stephen Heibolt might have helped me learn Adobe Illustrator. And so I remember the printer over under the window by the dining room table, and I'd be back and forth, I'd do it on regular paper first and then stick it in the 3/4 inch tape, trying to get it fit. And then I had to print some of it on sticky paper so you could peel it off and put it on the tape.
Yep.
So it was just like going to college for how to run a business, and B, or not run a business. I'm kidding.
Barely run a business.
But definitely for the trailer industry, I was very, very green. But because those guys gave me so much to do and try and just said, just do it. Like, they're like, you'll figure it out. and a lot of times I was like, I don't know how I'm going
Well,
to figure this
so
out.
Anne was like, obviously she was making labels. She was answering the phone. She was taking the lunch order. She was doing all the HR, probably doing all the payroll.
Yes.
Greg
And
Golden would come in one day a week.
all of our event planning was done by Anne.
Yeah, that's right.
And at one point, I remember, I think we were in the Santa Monica building. I don't know. I think you came to us and it's like, I cannot do that anymore. I'm done with planning all these parties and multitasking all this stuff.
Well, and we started expanding from there. Melissa came in as a receptionist, so I was able to relinquish some duties, and guys gave me, book the narrations, do all the contracts. So it was, again, this was great training. Like, you'd have me book those guys. I'd call the Tischerman agency and get Al Chalk or Don LaFontaine, and there was a couple other ones, but Tischerman was the big narration agency at the time. But I learned how to do those contracts.
So you just went on ChatGPT and asked how to do a contract?
Right.
Yeah.
That's how you did it back then.
Exactly. There, I wish. But
Honestly,
These are the days of the Thomas Guide, Corey.
The Thomas Guide. I hated the Thomas Guide. I wanted to see the big picture. I got the AAA maps. I wanted to see the whole thing. So in all seriousness, though, hearing all this, because you have run companies. You ran Vibe, obviously, the Hive. So having done all of that, I would imagine that must have made you that much better of a leader once you were in charge of Vibe and then Hive and everything you subsequently did.
It was like going to college for creative advertising. It really was, because we were small and scrappy, and these guys gave me things to do, and then even on the Avid. So this is a funny story about billing. So they had this idea to have do the billing, which actually was on the Santa Monica space. And I'm like, I don't know. Numbers is not my thing. And they're like, you'll figure it out. Greg Golden will help you. And there was this other girl, Beth Stenko, who did some billing. But we got this, Rob Kobus at New Line reached out and said, look, you're sending these bills that say like 5 hours for version 4 and, 3 hours for this. How do we know it really took that long? And so I really didn't know what to say. And they're like, so what we want is backup to what changes were done to the cuts. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So I go to Tim and Jim and I'm like, Rob Kobus wants us to send backup now what the changes are. And Tim's like, okay, just do it. Again, I was like,
that sounds easy, Ann. Just take care of it.
I know. He goes, just do it. I'm like, well, what do you mean do it? He goes, well, go to each editor and look at the cuts and with them and whatever. So that was a big, big breakthrough for me, because I enjoyed that. They didn't really enjoy it because it was a lot of rehashing to go over all the changes, and I had to write them all down, then I had to type them up. But one time,
we had to stop what we were doing.
Yeah, you had to stop what you were doing. So Tommy was not having it. And he's
No.
like, okay. He's like, no, I can't do this, because this is what's going to happen. He's like, when I go to lunch or whatever, he goes, you come in here. I'm going to show you how to turn on the Avid and the drives, and you're going to go through the cuts, and you're going to look at them. You're going to look at them, and you're going to determine the changes. And I'm like, oh, he goes, and then he goes, this was the best part. He goes, and I want you to always clean off my desk. Or spray down my desk when you're done, because I know you have cats and I'm really allergic. So
Oh my God.
That sounds like Tommy.
You're
That
an
aristocrat.
aristocrat.
This is Tommy the aristocrat.
That sounds like
him. Yep.
But
My
the
God.
crazy part about
Painting a
it is
picture.
not only was I learning about billing, which I didn't know I was going to need to know down the road, but I was understanding what was happening from version to version, and the cuts and the changes and the music. And did I get every single one of them? Probably not, but I had plenty for Rob Kobus, because some of these bills would turn into like 5-page bills, because he would have, all 5, the bill, and then he'd have like 4 or 5 pages of backup. And
So backup was like an inventory of all the changes that were made.
yes, from those versions, he'd want to know what we did to warrant the billing those amount of hours.
Weren't those coming from him, though? Weren't those like client notes that transferred into?
Yeah, but Rob wasn't giving the notes; he was billing.
Yeah, he would be like, no, I'm not paying this bill. I didn't authorize this cut. And we go, well, Chris Poole will call us and ask us to cut it.
Yeah,
and then. And I'd say, go talk to Chris. And then, eventually it was fine, but he would always push back on every bill.
Right. to answer your question, Corey, all of that was forming a lot about how I learn things. And I actually say to this day, whenever I'm talking to someone who feels like they're maybe in a position that, they want to be doing this or that, I said, listen, there's some reason why you are in this position that you're in right now. Learn as much as you can from it. And I tell that story. I tell that story how I didn't want to do billing, and sometimes I was crying. I'm like, this is not. I don't even know what I'm doing. And but what it led to is me actually learning about the billing process in creative advertising, but also the versioning and the Avid, because Tommy made me do the Avid myself. So I have
So
to give all these guys a lot of the
I
credit.
mean,
Really,
really,
truly.
when we talk about this, it's a miracle that this company even stayed in business.
I agree. Yeah,
Because in the beginning, it was just chaos and disorder.
totally.
So this, I'm imagining each one of you, even though you were all so young at the time, and still so young, and so no, but you were all
Thank
like
you.
babies, you absolute babies. But you also had these legendary moments prior to your trailer park. So so Tommy, the rock and roller, and my question is, did you each have what I'll refer to as an anchorman moment or several anchor? And what I mean by that is like you're asked to do these things and you're like, I don't know how to say this, but I'm kind of a big deal. Like didn't you, you like, hey, I don't know how to say this, but I am the homecoming queen. Like
Well, I mean, that they treated me well, and things happened. Like they took me out for my birthday, and that's where I ended up meeting my husband Chris. And so there was a lot of
oh, that's
things
right. He was a
that
bartender, right?
he was a waiter. He
Waiter,
wasn't even
waiter.
our waiter, but that's a whole other story, but I don't want to take up too much time. But these guys had taken me out on my birthday. So there was a closeness with us, but there was also like we were definitely going through growing pains, all of us, when none of us were perfect. And I remember even asking for my first raise, and Jim, I mean, this is kind of funny because I can't remember, it doesn't really matter. It's irrelevant what it was at the time, but you're like, this is a good raise because at Costco, they only get like 25 cents, increase. And because I got like maybe a few dollars more. And I'm like,
Oh God.
anyway, it's just funny. Again, we
In
all,
the real world,
yeah, in the real world. Yeah, in the real world, you'd get 25, 50 cents. And that's a good raise. I'm like,
right.
well, so it, to answer that, I don't know that I did have an anchor man. I knew that we were all in the cogs in this thing, but we were all learning at the same time. I mean, those guys were
It
going through
was
things that I had no idea about, and I was trying to help them run it, as best I knew how, and I was learning a ton in the meantime, and then we were all having a lot of life happen to us at the same
Mm,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
What were you saying,
it,
Tommy?
wa- it was a startup. If you think about it, if you really think about it, it was a startup in every way. You watch movies about tech company startups, it's a mass pizzas and people sleeping there, 24/7 schedules, just, disorder, mayhem, piratey kind of lifestyles. That was us. It was technically a startup, and Tim and Jimmy were our our pirate leaders, and we were like, "Fuck yeah, let's do this." And we just loved competing against all the big agencies at the time. We would always go against them, and it was fun to win.
We
Yeah.
were a family. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
It was like crazy, like camaraderie, crazy friendships, crazy like life all together. We were really kind of growing together. It was beautiful.
And
So
I'll add to what Anne said, which is that Jim and I have so much respect for Jim and Tim, how they treated us all the time. They always took care of us. They always made sure that we were happy, and they gave us raises when I didn't even expect it, and they treated us all, really well.
yeah. So
And they gave us a lot of beer to drink too, which was
Yeah.
fun.
well, you're sort of answering my next question, which is I came from the New York theater scene, so getting this band of people together who put their hearts and their souls into mounting this play, whatever it might have been, you get people to do what you're describing. Do 24-hour, 36-hour shit, like just whatever the guy who's playing Hamlet is cleaning the toilets on opening night, like whatever you have to do, because you really believe in this thing, right? Well, a lot of the other companies didn't even think about culture. They just were. But you guys were the predecessors to some of the companies today that have really, really special cultures like Bond and AV Squad. There was no company. This was pre-Ant Farm when they actually thought about as simple as like this, as Barbara says, no screamers. We're not going to have any screamers. Were you guys thinking about that, thinking of the kind of culture that you wanted to cultivate, and that was a way to separate yourself from those legacy companies?
I think when we started out, we were just kind of putting out fires, having fun. I didn't have like an extreme grand plan of any of it, but just having, we definitely had fun like along the way. And I don't think we played too much of the hierarchy, like we're the bosses, we're this, we're that. We all were there late. We all pitched in and did whatever it took, to get the job done. So I think that's, a little bit, kind of what Ann was talking about, where, we treated everybody, I think, well, the way we'd want to be treated. And we had fun along the journey that we were on.
I remember one time we went. Do you guys remember when we moved over to the Santa Monica building, and there was that little greasy diner that was right next to it?
Yes, it wasn't there long, but it was there.
Yeah. And we went in there for lunch one time. We had some writer there, and I can't remember, he was some British writer, and he went in, and he was such a jerk to them. He was such an ass. And Jim and I came back afterward, and we're like, that dude sucks, and we fired him.
I remember that.
And we were just and I think about that now because I'm like, yeah, the organism couldn't take any assholes. Like everyone was really cool, and we didn't want to have anybody who wasn't cool as part of the group. Even if
we hired people we liked. Yeah.
I remember that in his British accent. I think we kind of stood up because it was a tiny place and a hardworking woman who owned it and ran it. And he said that was perhaps the worst meal I've ever had, but I can't do it in his British accent. But he said it loud enough, and we're like, I think that's what pissed you guys off, if I remember correctly. But we're like, uh-oh.
If anything, that was the culture. Yeah.
That's got to be a scary moment because you're getting work. You need a certain number of hands on deck, a certain level of talent to be able to do what you want to do. So to pull the trigger on firing somebody that you're like, oh man, how are we gonna pull this one out with that guy? But the choice of saying no, we got to protect this cool vibe that we got over and above. Like we'll take that. That's the risk we'll take. We'll take the risk that somebody will stay late as opposed to having an asshole that's going to ruin the party for everybody else. That's got to be super scary.
When you're working on comedies, it's like the atmosphere is just like fun and funny, and everyone's laughing with each other. And there's a like if somebody messes that up, that's like what we're doing. Like that's the blood of the company. So
that's interesting.
I feel like that's I think we just had an innate sense of that. And
we were always trying to make each other laugh.
Always. And doing things that were not HR friendly, that were.
Yeah. Oh, definitely not. I mean, more fart jokes there, more burp jokes there.
Yeah. And fart and burps are putting it mildly, Mike.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, no one was harassed or anything like that. It wasn't that, but we just did some questionable things. And
do tell.
And they ended up renting that bullet-ridden apartment next door just because we were starting to grow, and we needed somewhere to store all the 3/4-inch tapes. So we had this vacant apartment. It was not very nice, and the kitchen cabinets we just stuffed with overstock of 3/4-inch, so we had them because you always had to have plenty of empty tapes too, and then the other tapes,
Yeah, and I think I kind of remember when we got that apartment. That was when we had our trailer park party.
Yeah,
where we put hay in the parking lot and we got chickens and let them run around, and we had kegs and
made it literally
spam.
Tried to make it a trailer.
We
park
serve
party.
spam.
We serve spam. That's right.
Not Milwaukee's best. Not with Milwaukee's best beer
That's
balls.
probably the beer we had. Yeah, probably.
To our clients. It was
another thing we did
too, probably, right?
Yeah, I think it was. It was.
That's
I
awesome.
remember we had to buy the chickens for like $5 a piece, And then afterward, like, what the hell are we gonna do with these chickens now? So we went back to the place and they said, yeah, we'll buy them back. And I think they bought them back for like $6.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh,
That's great.
Another great thing that we did was, I don't know, every other night, definitely on Fridays, we played music, and so Tommy, who's an amazing, pretty much on any instrument, but Tommy would play guitar, Tim was learning the bass, and Jim was trying to play the
And some
drum.
badass drums.
guys
Yeah,
did
we had a
great.
band.
So Tommy literally suffered through all of this with probably Tim and I. Tim was better than I was, but I was pretty bad on the instrumentation. But we sure had a lot of fun, and sure had a lot of beers doing it.
Yeah, Jim, you're way too humble. Anything you touched, you were able to do.
No,
I do
no,
remember that. You
You know,
definitely had Midas touch.
That's that's a really good point. Forgot about that. So imagine working your ass off all week with the team that we're talking about, right? And on Friday night, instead of wanting to go home
Yeah.
to whether it was alone or your loved one, whatever, we decided to stay there and jam and drink beers together. That says everything.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
That's
another pivotal moment in those early days, it was maybe chapter 2, or you're saying it might have even been chapter 3, but that decision to move to the Santa Monica building must have seemed like you were renting out Dodger Stadium. Like that must have seemed like a pretty mammoth thing to take on. How big of a deal was that?
That was a big deal. And then I was going to ask Tim, when we got that building, I guess we built it out for, I don't know, it must have been 6 months or something, because
Yeah,
we
we
did.
did.
We put all the walls on the one side that's like the more, brick side, and we built, like, I don't know, 6 edit bays,
And they were
and
big.
and then we put these glass walls on top, or glass on top of the wall, so that some light would come through, because it was in this Quonset hut that had I think a skylight down the middle of it. And, the concrete floors were stained, and it was a cool looking building. We kept the brick, on the walls, and the edit bays were pretty extreme size for what probably
They were
people
very
have
big.
today. They
And
were
you
like,
guys let us pick how we wanted to paint them.
yeah.
Well, actually, somebody very famous
Yeah, I
decorated
was just
that.
gonna say that. I don't know if you guys remember that, but Kelly
Yeah.
Wurstel was our designer
Yeah.
for that first building, because she was a friend. And
Did she help with
Right.
the second building though? I know she helped with, with the
yeah,
first building. on
no,
Cahuenga.
with the Santa Monica building. She was the one who like did that whole like design down the hallway with the diamond cut in the
Okay.
concrete, and came up with the concrete colors and all that stuff.
Did you
Do
have
you know who Kelly Wursler is? Do you know who she is?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
She's like become this like huge designer. Like, yeah, she's like an international superstar now.
I think she's the one who flipped the Century City Mall. It was her design.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, she did, and she was on that. She was on like one. There was like a designer show that was like a top model show, and she was one of the judges on that. And yeah,
She's amazing.
She's really
The only thing though, Tim, she picked out one thing for your office that kind of creeped me out a little bit. It was a baby casket thing that she did to like some kind of cool tray.
carrier.
It was a baby casket carrier. I'm like, I mean, yeah, I know she put the cast in there, but I'm like, it always gave me the willies. I'm like, I don't know.
Forgot about that.
Yep.
I did too.
But
That's funny.
yeah, but that was a bigger commitment, because we were going from this shithole, as we call it, building, to like an official building. But we definitely, I think, I felt like we kept the same fun vibe. Like the beginning days of that Cahuenga building were magical, as far as just the friendships and everything that and the fun that we were having. And then I think also in that new building, we were just having bigger parties, basically, was what was going on.
Bigger parties, yeah. And then
That was actually the turn, because we were like this little scrappy comedy company for the most part. And then when we moved to the Santa Monica building is when Benedict came, and then we sort of took on the whole other thing there, and company went in a different direction.
And then we had Jason King was also part of the band. So when Jason started playing drums, I got kicked out.
That's right.
He was a good drum player.
He was a good drummer. Did Matt Lynch? Did he
Matt
play?
Lynch played
Winchy
bass.
Poo.
He played bass. Okay.
Tim got kicked off the bass at that point.
I remember one time I was there playing, and I remember Adam Sandler was over, and we went, "Oh, let's go jam." And I was playing the bass, and I was such a bad bass player, I couldn't even make it through one song before my hands would start to cramp. Adam's just looking at me like, "Dude, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
those were days when Adam Sandler and Mike Myers were coming over. That's when Trailer Park all of a sudden was at a different level. But there was this one time where they both had summer movies coming out, Mike Myers and Adam Sandler, and Tommy's doing Mike's cutting on some of Mike Myers on
Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, and Tommy's cutting on Sandler. So literally, we're trying to time it. Tim's like, they're both, Adam's coming over and then Mike's coming over in 2 hours or whatever. They ended up passing each other right in the hallway, and we're all because we gave everybody our best, but it for some people of that caliber, it might have been like, oh, are they, they're actually we both have summer movies coming out, different studios, but it was just I remember that moment.
Well, Tommy also, there was a time I think Tommy was working on both campaigns.
Yeah.
And it was, basically a fight of who was more powerful in Hollywood to work with Tommy. The editor.
I have a great picture of the two of them left and right of me. It's a great shot. And I'm like totally scared in between the two of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they were like
I
frenemies.
love that, Tommy. That's great. I didn't know you had that.
Yeah, I have it somewhere. I'll share it because I felt busted. Now they know.
Yeah, that was when all of us. We're all like going, "Uh-oh, how's this gonna go?"
Yeah.
Tommy, I think you're the one who told me when pretty early days at Sony, you said, "I know I'm not the only client, but I just want to feel like I'm the only client," right?
Yeah.
Oh, when I was talking to agencies?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like me.
Yeah. All right. So, really, this isn't necessarily a rapid fire, but I'm curious to know how each of you will answer your favorite campaign or favorite trailer from those very early chapters of Trailer Park.
I'll just probably go back to the one we were talking about. Dumb and Dumber is probably a fun one for me.
Why is that? Was it just like an undiscovered gem?
Because we were young, dumb, and fun, when we were doing it. It was turned out to be like, we talked about a notable campaign, and it was just fun to work on. We were always anytime we would get a big comedy in, we're all very goofy people, and so that's where we would come up with these kind of offshoot ideas. Like we were the company doing usually the more, hey, let them do the solid, let them do the great trailer. We'll do the weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved working on. Well, I mean, we did a Friday. That was an iconic one.
One of the best trailers ever.
That was awesome.
Friday.
I love the Austin Powers stuff we did. That was all really fun.
I think I got to say, again, I gave a shout out to Mike. I was personally always kind of like, I think I also want to set up another factor. Tim and Jimmy were smart business peeps. They would hit Mike and I against each other on trailers. We were fiercely competitive. Yeah. And what they would get was gold, of course. Gold. Yeah. And the clients would be like, amazing trailers, because Mike and I would have to like compete against each other. And one day he was upstairs in that same closet listening or watching dailies on Austin Powers. The first one, Mike was. And we're talking for
the very first one. I forgot about that, right? The one we were talking about was Austin Powers 2. That was the first
we
one.
did the show West. I did the show.
And it was a Show West reel or a Me-Fed reel. It was an early reel, and the studio didn't even know what they had. And Mikey was sitting up there laughing his ass off. And I think Mikey, like Mike, you figured out the tone of that movie because you cut a reel or you cut something to that track. The quintessential Quincy Jones track. And it kind of became the whole essence of the Mike Myers, Austin Powers, the franchise was born in that bay, I think. I think you found it.
That was my favorite trailer, I think, to edit because we got that movie before anybody else got it because we did a Show West piece for it. And that was the version that had Christian Slater in it that got cut out later. That's the the mystery Christian Slater version. But that I remember editing it going, nobody's gonna get this. Like, this movie is gonna flop. Like, these jokes are too weird. I think it's hilarious because I love that kind of humor. I mean, I got it, but I'm like, nobody else is gonna get this. Like, this is gonna be a big flop,
No, we
And
did a screening of it in El Segundo. They did a screening, and I remember we sat there in the screening, and no one was laughing. No one thought it was funny, and they were panicking. They were just like, "Oh shit, no one gets it." And it was just the wrong crowd. Like that wasn't the right crowd for it. As soon as it found its crowd, it was great. But
And did you have any favorites from those chapters?
I was going to agree with Austin Powers because I do think Trailer Park set the tone, and for that obviously New Line too. They took a lot of chances with stuff, but it had to get people to get it. But probably my favorite was Austin Powers 2, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Right? Was that? Yeah, The Spy Who Shagged Me, because we did a special shoot at Trailer Park with Mike Myers as Dr. Evil, and I got to pet Mr. Bigglesworth, baby Mr. Bigglesworth, and I've never touched. It was like it was warm peach, but just that whole thing. Because what was brilliant about that is Star Wars was being re-released. Like the new wave of the Star Wars franchises, 1, 2, and 3, I think it was. So Austin Powers was coming out at the same time. And I thought it was so cool that a campaign that Trailer Park came up with and that New Line went with, it was basically saying, if you see one movie this summer, see Star Wars. But if you see 2, see Austin Powers. How awesome that you could be. And I think people just loved it because everybody was going to go see Star Wars. But we did this whole misdirect where Dr. Evil, you think it's Darth Vader, and he turns around. Anyway, it was seared into me as really creative people coming together and doing something awesome. Mike, who trusted them.
Well, Tommy and I both worked on it together, and we were always trying to figure out who could come up with the funniest shit. And I just remember this one moment when I walked into Tommy's office. It had to be one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my whole life. I must have fell down on the ground laughing. But you had Dr. Evil, and he was petting Mr. Bigglesworth, and Tommy cut it so that the cat said, "Yo quiero Austin Powers."
Oh, right. Like the Taco Bell commercials, right? Yeah.
And they didn't go for it, but it was the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, Tommy, you are the greatest, the most creative, funniest. I never thought I was in competition with Tommy because he was like in another atmosphere from me. I was always out of my league.
No, dude, I felt the same thing about you, for sure.
We would cut a lot of We'd cut a lot of spots to, most campaigns. If it was a fun campaign like that, there was always the client spot. We'd send them on the side that we would just kind of do something really goofy with it, and those were a lot of fun.
Yeah. We do the version that just made us laugh. I remember Tommy and I one night we were working on Beavis and Butthead, and we stayed up literally all night. Like I think we were working late. And we got some idea like late at like 11 o'clock at night, and we're all, this is such a great idea. This is gonna be so hilarious.
It was to cut the spot to knock, knock, knock on wood.
Yeah, because they always said wood. So we cut it to knock, knock, knock on wood. And we thought it was hilarious. We were just like, this
was hilarious.
And we stayed up all night. We sent it over in the morning. And I remember Jim Gibbons looked at it and he goes, "Yeah, I don't get it."
That's great.
You know what? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was going to say, Tim, do you remember when we were working with Roland at Fox? And I can't remember the campaign we were working on, but I don't know. I think I came up with this, or we did. Came up with this idea to.
I remember this.
On our slates, we decided to do something funny. I can't remember what it was, but we did a little comedy thing on our slates. And then our client called us because then they showed it in the meeting. The client calls us back and says, "Don't you ever send over spots like that again. Everyone's laughing harder at your slate than they're laughing at the spot."
Because what you did was you'd put the slate up and then you'd have like a chicken sound or a frog or something. Like on every slate, you put a different farm animal sound.
For the two pop or something, you mean?
That's
Yeah,
the
it's
kid
like
from
a-
Indiana.
While the slate was going on, there was just some crazy sound effect. Everyone was laughing at the slates, and he goes, "Don't send spots where the slates are funnier than the spots."
Yeah, that was the line.
That was Roland Mesa.
Yeah, I'm sure it was rolling. Corey, I was just going to say one more thing about like Tim and Jim asking me to do things like, how am I going to do this? On Austin Powers 2, Tim's like, I have this idea that I think it'd be really cool if you got Eric Idle to narrate, Austin Powers 2. And I'm like, who? And he told me, he's like, giving me the history. And I'm like, oh. And then he's like, so try to find out where he is. Like, and I'm like, what? Like, again, like find out Eric Idle. But guess what? We got Eric Idle. We got Eric Idle in Trailer Park and sent a car for him. But anyway.
We also got when we did the MasterCard commercial, remember, Anne, and we got the Visa,
Yeah, the Visa guy.
The Visa guy, and we're like, who is that? And they're like, it's Billy Crudup, and we're like, can we get the guy that did the MasterCard commercial, to come in, and you got him.
I know.
Crazy. So we've sort of been talking about this, but I want to ask the question just head on and have each of you answer this in your own way. What do you think was the secret sauce? What was the secret to Trailer Park's success? Because it did last, it lasted a long time, decades. A lot of marriages don't last as long as Trailer Park lasted. What was the secret to Trailer Park's success?
I can answer that. It was Tim and Jim. Absolutely, Tim and Jim.
Stop it! It's the talent of everybody together.
That's my answer.
All right.
Like, you have to say that you can only do so much if your boss allows you to. If your boss appreciates your weirdness or your style or your point of view or the copy that you write, that's going to make you, do more of it and feel, free of the shackles that a lot of people feel when they work for people who they don't vibrate in the same way or don't have the same aesthetic or maybe the same just taste. And Jimmy and Tim, they just let us do amazing work because we saw how amazing their work was. I just was so inspired by them.
Yeah. They're both creative forces in of themselves. So they weren't just business owners. They were our mentors and, creative forces in the company. I agree.
I have a different answer.
Yeah, exactly.
My answer is it's the culture, because that's what transcended us, right? Like, we created a culture at that company. We were just like such a tight group, and just the idea that the whole reason we were doing this, yes, we were trying to make stuff for the clients, but the first people who had to please with each other and just make each other laugh and be into it, and I think we were all really tight knit. And I think that even though obviously the company changed over, I think a piece of that culture had to stick with it, or else it couldn't have survived this long.
Yeah, and obviously back at you, Tommy, but obviously the talent of everybody in that company has to be good every day. And we also knew what each talent, here's his strength. Don't let him do that. Let him do that. So acknowledging, who was strong at what. Also, you have to know that in the trailer business because obviously certain people are really good at certain things, and so unfortunately, in the beginning, we were all good at almost everything, but we did do mostly comedy in the beginning, and then we
good at the one thing
we got so good at that, and maybe bored with it. They were like, "Let's we need we got an action movie, man." Everybody would just go bonkers. Mike would go bonkers on it,
And what
action and horror.
Yeah, we got some horror movies.
That's right. We did some horror back
because we did. We did In the Mouth of Madness. Remember, Jim? Yes. Right after Dumb and Dumber, we did that trailer together, and that was a lot of fun to cut to.
We did Leprechaun, and we did
Leprechaun.
Oh God, Leprechaun.
That was a comedy too, though.
We also do have our own, kind of, what do you want to call it, like frat boy, frat girl dialogue with each other, because we did so much together for so much time that we do extract all those, we live through a lot of those little moments. Like, we can be at a party or whatever and say something, and it's funny to two of us because we know what we're talking about, but there is a little dialogue that happens, and we have a lot of it that we all know what it is. And so that there's a little bond there.
About half of it is lines from Friday.
Yeah, or Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
Oh, Tommy Boy was such a great fun
Right here,
movie.
right
Tommy
here, right
Boy.
here.
We,
Yeah,
we would quote Tommy Boy endlessly.
Yeah.
yeah.
One of my favorite things about the original OG trailer park building was we'd be cutting, and of course, back then you just cut in your bay and you didn't use headphones, and you'd be cutting on a spot or a trailer. You'd just be starting, and you'd hear, "Don't use that music."
And it was such a small building, right? You could hear everything everywhere.
You could just beat on the door and be like,
Fix
that
that
sound
music
effect
cut."
sounds bad.
That's
It was
funny.
wild, and I could hear like when Mike was cutting, so I would steal a joke. He didn't even know I knew he was using. It was like it was a it was transparency at its best.
That's
It
great.
was awesome.
Uh,
I was going to answer you though about I think that it's a combination of everything these guys have said of talent and culture. We were laying down train track that we didn't even realize we were laying down, and I think it has set a tone for many other versions of trailer park that came to be that had nothing to do with any of us, and but yet had everything to do with the foundation that was started back then. And it's unfortunate that the trailer division is closing because it feels terrible to have your job taken out from under you. I can speak to that, and to to see where trailer park went and the talent that it became is so impressive. And it's very humbling to know that way back when, there was a Scrappy group of us on 741 North Cahuenga that were just doing our thing, and we had no idea what, train track we were laying down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is important to recognize that Trailer Park went on to have several big chapters, individuals that made up the different chapters of the, we haven't even gotten to Benny. Benny was, when Benedict Culture came to the company, that was arguably like launching it into that very next chapter, and Tim and Benny took it, to even greater heights. The other
Yep.
thing to recognize is that just the five folks here, not only did you each go on to contribute to the industry, a couple of on the studio side, had chapters on the studio side, mini major in your case, Mike, as well as major studio. But in a lot of ways, you're still having an impact on the industry. So we could sit here for another 6 hours just talking about all that. Um, but maybe we'll have to reconvene or I'm going to have to come up with some other trick just to get Ann back on here, because Ann only comes on when we do these tributes. I got to get you on here, Ann. You're the best. So
I've learned so much about Anne today.
yeah,
And you guys too.
yeah. Well, we do have to wind it down, but we covered a lot. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you want to add before we wind it down?
I want to say that one of the things I love about trailer park, and you said something really wonderful, is that we may have been a small part of its beginning, but it's been quite quite an amazing thing to see how much it's grown. And it is sad that it's come to an end. It really is sad, especially now when things are so hard to find new beginnings. But I have to say, one of the things that I'm really so happy and proud of, and it started with such a little team, but to drive through Hollywood and look up into the sky and see like the Hollywood sign and see the Roosevelt hotel sign, but also see that trailer park sign way up above. It's like one of the only signs you could see from miles away. I'm literally saying from LAX, when I fly in, I see it. And it's like, can you believe we were part of that? That's kind of one of the coolest things that I think
Yeah.
I've ever felt in my life, is like we were a part of that, and it's done. It's sad to know that. But we made an impact, and that sign
Yeah.
kind of like represents that. It's pretty cool. Everyone who's ever been at Trailer
Yeah.
Park made a really big impact.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw the sign driving down La Brea or Highland and looking up and like, holy crap,
Same.
crazy. I'm with a friend that's
Well-
someone from out of town, and I'm like, that's the company. We started that company. Like, really? Yeah. That was neat.
Yeah, none of us work there now, but we all started.
That might
Hey, do you think we could get the sign? How do we get the sign?
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Wow.
You can retire
put
the
it on
signs.
front
I
of
think
iBar,
Anthony
Tim.
did that. there's a House of Neon or whatever that a neon museum or something that has a lot of those.
That means a big ass sign, but that sign should not be thrown away.
No, I know.
So speaking of museums, my dream. Oh, Tim, you know this. Tim and Tommy, I think, know this because this my dream is to get the Trailer Industry Hall of Fame going. And some place in some museum to like this is exactly the stuff that I would love for at some point to get this thing. Because I say Tim and Tommy know this because there was a meeting. I want to say it was like the last week of February of 2020.
Yep.
And my secret was that I put together what I thought would be the inaugural class of the Trailer Industry Hall of Fame, and they were all at that meeting. They thought that I was having them there to be the board of directors for this new nonprofit that we started, but the last week of February, and then like whatever it was, a week later, we went into COVID, and we're like, oh, well, we're getting the nonprofit going. I guess the nonprofit has to be something other than like glorifying ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But it is overdue, man. We got to get that Hall of Fame going for if for no other reason to tell the story of the trailer parks and the individuals who made the company. Thank you guys so much for coming together to do this. I love that you have you still, as an outsider, just kind of observing you, I can tell that you all still have such a good bond, a great rapport and a true friendship. And it's just really warms my heart to know that you had such an impact on the industry and literally hundreds of people who make up this industry. So thank you all for doing this, and thank you all for everything that you've contributed to our little business.
Thank you,
Thanks for the
Corey.
opportunity,
Thanks,
Corey. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
awesome. It was
Yeah.
awesome to
All
see you
right.
guys all again.
Great
Love
to
you
see
guys.
everyone. Love
Yeah.
you too.
Fun.
All right, Tim Nett, Jim Hale, Ann Mugglebee, Mike Southerly, and Tommy Gargotta. Thank you all for listening. As always, please rate us, review us, and all that good stuff. Thanks to the Golden Trailer Awards and APM Music. We're so grateful to them for helping us keep the lights on. Thanks again for joining us. Now, go do some inspired work.